Sinkong Lee is one of the most distinguished educators and teacher educators on the planet. And one key part of the whole Singapore story is the National Institute of Education, which Sinkong Lee has led since 2006. Nobody's ever summarised how Singapore does education policy better than you, as far as I'm concerned anyway. And I've heard you talk about the role of government, the role of teachers, and the role of the NIE. And it all sounds incredibly coherent. So could you just set out that triangle of how Singapore works for our colleagues?
Sure. So the coherence of the Singapore's education system is very much encapsulated by a tripartite relationship consisting of the ministry as the lead agency, the schools that delivers the education, and the third corner is the National Institute of Education, which I will now call NIE. So how does this triangle work? The lead agency, which is the ministry, working together with the practitioners, the professionals in the schools, as well as professors in NIE, coming together to develop a shared vision of what the desired of outcomes of education ought to be. For example, if a child goes through 6 years of education, what should be the desired outcome? So the ministry as the lead agency together identifies these desired outcomes very clearly. And you put in place a set of policies that will enable these desired outcomes to be achieved. So the schools must translate the policies into the right practices that will enable the achievements of the desired outcomes in the education of the children. So NIE, which is involved in preparing teachers to deliver these practices, must therefore translate the policies into teacher preparation programs, such that the teachers will be built with the right attributes, grounded with the right skills and knowledge, so that they can then go to the school to deliver the curriculum to achieve the desired outcome. So if all these three are aligned, I believe the goals can be achieved in the most impactful way.
Right, I told you it was going to be really clear. The story from 1965 to now in three segments is one that you tell often.
Singapore gains its independence only in 1965. And at that time, the political leadership encounters a great myriads of challenges with low literacy, unemployment, job prospects are not easy to come by. So at that point of time, the key emphasis of the government is to equip the people with the basic literacies such that they will be able to be employable. And we call it the survival-driven education phase. When the industries in Singapore begins to grow, it requires skilled workers. So how did the government therefore raise up a skilled workforce that can really support the economic growth? You know, in the 70s, as you recall, it's a one-size-fits-all model in terms of the curriculum. And they found that with that one-size-fits-all, there is a very high percentage of student attrition in completing 10 years of education in the schools. And the attrition rate was somewhere between 15% and above. So the minister, after having studied the whole system, came up with a very controversial educational initiative, streaming. And the good ones are streamed to what we call the express stream. The lesser, what you call academically inclined student, will be streamed to normal academic or normal technical. The express will take 4 years. The normal stream will take 5 years. 2 to 3 years down the road, statistics shows that this move was correct. And we see that the attrition rate was reduced very much from 15% down to about 1 to 2%. Using the system to really raise up as many of our students as possible to at least attain a 10-year education, we call it the efficiency-driven education. But then if you look at how the world has changed in the 80s and the early 90s, the technology began to advance, and in fact, the world's economic sector began to move from a pure industrialization mode into a knowledge-based economy. In the industrial phase, skills and knowledge are important. But in the knowledge-based economy, a different set is now very much required. And the third iteration is now ability-driven education. In other words, in a knowledge-based economy, the ability and the potential of every child is now important. Whether your aptitude is in the area of academic achievements or in the area of arts and music or whatever areas of potential that a child has, the education system must aim to raise that potential of the child so that he or she can use that potential to contribute to the development of the society. When we move into the ability-driven education, other attributes such as ability to apply your knowledge, ability to think creatively, ability to design innovatively, and how to apply your knowledge to convert it into value.
I just want to summarize. So you've got a survival phase, an
Yeah.
efficiency phase,
Yeah.
and then an ability phase. And you said that we're just evolving into the fourth
Fourth
iteration.
one.
And
Yeah.
what's that one going to be called?
Okay, we have the knowledge-based economy, but now in the 21st century, our economic landscape is really being transformed in ways that sometimes we cannot keep pace with. And the employers are telling you that the type of attributes that they want in employees today are no more skills and technical knowledge. They want attributes such as, can you work as a team? Do you have collaborative skills? How well can you ask questions? How should the education system be reshaped in order to prepare our students to be able to face an uncertain future, a changing future? Okay? And what should we educate? Because in this new landscape, knowledge is evolving so fast. In fact, now today, it is estimated that knowledge will double every 2.5 years. We establish 4 other attributes that we want to build in the child through the process of education. 1, a confident person. If you can build resilience and confidence in the child, that person can face the future, face the changes with confidence and with the understanding. Second, we want to develop a child who is a self-directed learner, a lifelong learner, because knowledge evolves so fast, therefore you need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The third is very interesting. We want the child to be an active contributor. We want a caring society where the successful group must not neglect the group that is left behind. Mm-hmm. How you can contribute back to society for the support that the society has given you in terms of your success. The fourth attribute is literally a concerned citizen. Now, Singapore has been a victim of our own success. We have been able to educate our youngs, with such good competencies. They're very mobile in the world. They can go to anywhere and get a job and settle down. But if every one of our good talents just go out of Singapore, then who will remain in Singapore to support our country and defend our country? So we are evolving now into a value-based and student-centric education.
What are the teacher education implications of this shift from the third to the fourth phase?
Yeah.
How are you training teachers differently?
We have identified 3 sets of values to be inculcated in our teachers. The first set of values is learner-centered values. See, we want a teacher to be able to have the empathy for the students. The second is teacher identity. We want to inculcate in the teachers a sense of professionalism of who they are. They are not there just doing a job. They are there as professionals in nurturing the children for tomorrow. So if they can understand their identity as professionals, then they will do their best in terms of updating themselves, upgrading themselves to professional development and other initiatives to be the best professional that they can be. And the third area is the professional community. We want the teachers to understand that as a professional, they cannot work alone. They must work as a community. We also help the teachers to understand that we are actually dealing with the 21st century digital learners who has a very different expectation of what learning is about. They dub them as epic learners. E is experiential. They love experiential in the process of learning. Second is participatory. They like to engage themselves in the process of learning. Third, I is imagery. More animated, the better it is. And C, connectedness. Today, you notice that students like to study as a group rather than alone. I have shown a slide of a refreshed classroom for the 21st century. It is no more rows of desks as what you may see here. It will be a round table or a hexagonal table where students will be sitting in groups, and we will have 4 or 5 LCD panels where each group can link their laptops or iPads onto the screen, and we have glass boards that will surround the whole classroom, that the student anywhere in the classroom can pick up something and start writing the ideas or inspiration on the board. You have to challenge every norm in this new landscape. See, the norm for library, what is it? Silence. Today, in NIE, in the heart of my library, I have a Starbucks-like cafe. Simply because the digital learners, the epic learners, love to work as a group and drink at the same time. So the question often asked to me is that, yeah, NIE has evolved and you train student teachers, in this new landscape. How would they fit into the schools, which some of it may still be traditional?
Yeah.
My answer is very simple. I have to prepare my teachers to be change agents. If I just prepare teachers to meet the current needs of the school or the current landscape of the schools, how would the change come about? So my teachers must evolve in the school to bring changes, to bring new ideas in terms of meeting the needs of the learning of the 21st century learners in the school itself.
Okay, questions to Sinkong.
Charlotte Rice from Grammar School Heads Association. You talked about the importance of building resilience in your learners, and I wonder whether you could give us a bit more detail about how you go about creating resilient learners.
We do this through encouragement. See, if a child does not succeed in certain areas, we do not, what you call, tell the child, give up, Yeah? We will encourage the child. Say, look, you have not done well this time. Work harder. You will be able to succeed. So it's through encouragement. Like, I think encouragement is not just in the area of academic realm, but a lot of these values can be inculcated and imbibed through co-curricular activities such as sports, such as other activities, like project and so on. So in sports, if you play a game, do you give up halfway? No. Play to the end. And we teach the students what resilience is about. Determination is about. Responsibility is about. You are responsible to the team.
My question is, what does initial teacher training look like in an ideal world, and how has Singapore taken that on board?
I think there is no one perfect teacher education model in the world. But I think what we can ensure that the teacher education model is appropriate is to have the end in mind. If you know the end goals of what this teacher ought to do, will be doing in the schools, we just prepare them with the skills that will enable them to achieve their end goals. Since in Singapore we have this now values-based education, we know the desired outcome, so we prepare the teachers with that understanding on a model that will equip them to have the attributes to do that job, to achieve the desired outcome. So it is actually one of appropriateness that relate to your end outcome. There is really no one perfect model of what a teacher education model ought to be. It must be related to the outcome.
So, colleagues, this has been I think you'll agree with me, a brilliant exposition of how Singapore has developed its education system, how it thinks about the questions that all of us are wrestling with. There's a coherence there, there's a passion for education for every child, not just in Singapore, but globally. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, your passion, your commitment, and your insight with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And